Today you'll see an amazing fitting shirt with a dolman sleeve with an amazing fit, has a buster and cup sizes, what's not to love? A very doable collar stand and collar. Hi sewing friends, I'm Karina from liftingpinsandneedles.com. Welcome to this channel that is all about sewing, limitless sewing, and today I have woven sewing to share. I'm very excited to show you my brand new shirt. This is a pattern from Itch to Stitch that I've been sewing over the last couple of days, been in pattern testing, and it's called Nosara. It's designed for woven fabrics and there are a lot of classic shirt features in this pattern. One of them is a nice collar stand and collar. It's a very doable technique, don't worry, you'll be able to do it. I really enjoyed this technique and it's usually the way I do mine when I'm doing my own sewing. Another feature that makes it a little easier to sew is that the button placket is integrated onto the front piece, so you don't need to cut out a separate piece. All you do is fold it onto itself a couple of times. On the front, you'll see a patch pocket. You can choose to do one or not do one at all, or maybe you want one on both sides. I think that is optional. At the back, you have a yoke, and because this is a dolman type sleeve, it'll go all the way across the back, so when you look at the pattern piece, it looks slightly wider than typical other yoke pieces where you have a setting sleeve and your armhole stops on the shoulder. Because this is a dolman sleeve, it's grown on. So that's one thing that you'll see. Below the yoke at the back, you'll find two little pleats, one on each side. The golden feature here is something that you can't really see when you look at the garment, but maybe you can notice in the fit, and that is the bust-dart. Perfect. Usually dolman sleeves don't have a bust-dart. Another golden feature, which I think is the biggest one of all, is that you don't just have a bust-dart that's the same for everyone. It'll be customized for cup sizes, sewing cup sizes A through double D. So I think that is a tremendous help for the fit. I love that. And also a dolman sleeve is super easy because you don't have to sew on a separate sleeve, it's already there. And then the side seam is just a curve and it's just very easy to do. So I love that. It is a curved hem, so on the sides it'll be shorter, typical like a shirt. So on the sides it'll sort of be at the mid hip and then it'll curve forward on the front, and on the back is longer than the front. This is personal preference, of course. You have lengthen and shorten lines there to make your shirt shorter or longer, however you prefer it to be. The Nosara is for woven fabrics, so if you are newer to sewing and you haven't done many collars, a more structured fabric is going to be easier for you to work with and have a really nice experience. You don't need the fabric to drape for this design. There are no gathers, flounces, that type of situation going on. So a nice structured fabric is perfect for this. Cotton lawn, you know, even if you have a really nice quilting cotton, that could work if it's nice and soft. Chambray, sisaka, a nice cotton poplin, 100% linen, a nice linen rayon blend. All of these are gonna work really well. Maybe even if you have a really light denim, I think it would look amazing too. Now, if you do want a little bit of flow and a little bit of drape to your fabric, then I would keep the drapier types of fabrics, not in the light type, not in the super feather light type. So I wouldn't use 100% rayon, the plain weave, the really lightweight. If I wanted to use 100% rayon, I'd look for a rayon crepe or a rayon twill, something with a little more weight to it. It would just be less transparent, less wrinkly, easier to work with, but would still fall really nicely. I think a rayon linen blend is sort of in between the structured and the flowy because you have some rayon component in there. It would fall really nicely as well. This is my choice. You've seen it before. I made a wrap skirt. It's red with white stripes. I did buy quite a lot of yardage of that because I love that color. It's one of my best colors and I love the stripes. That is what I've chosen for this one. Other notions you need a bit of interfacing. You need to interface the center front for the integrated button placket, and also the top of the patch pocket and the upper collar, the outer collar stand. So you do need a little bit of that. And depending on the amount of buttonholes you make, you might need up to 10 buttons. I'm using 10, but you could use 8, you know, it's up to you. Because this is a brand new pattern at Itch to Stitch, it'll be discounted 20% for the first week. So that goes through next Thursday, the 27th of July. Find my affiliate link down below if you'd like to use it. I do make a small commission and that's part of the way I make an income doing all of this that I do here on this platform. I do love to give back to you. I do work hard to provide great quality filming footage of sewing steps so you can get a good visual of what to do as a way to complement your sewing instructions. So you will see some sewing today. The sizing is great from 00 to 40 US, goes up to a 62-inch hip. And as I mentioned before, we have individual sewing bust cup sizes. And I do mention this every now and then, again and again, because it's always good to just repeat in case you're brand new here. Your sewing bust cup size is not the same as your bra cup size. The bra cup size takes the under bust and the full bust as reference. So this is taking account the upper bust with the full bust. The difference there is what gives you the sewing bust cup size. Because with sewing, we're not cupping the bust from underneath like your bra is. We're going over the bust and we're going over this front projection that we have. So here's a little chart to see here. If the difference between your high bust and your full bust is 1 inch, you have an A cup. And every inch you add on adds on a cup size like you see there. In my specific case, I have a 3-inch difference, which makes me a C sewing bust cup size. You might wear another type of cup size on your bra, just forget about that. Just take these measurements for sewing and your clothes are gonna fit nicely. I think with a Dolman sleeve, you should expect some type of fabric folds here and a little bit of excess because you don't have a setting sleeve. And you know, we don't walk around like this. If we did, maybe our Dolman sleeves would lie really flat and extended, but this is how we live our life. And so we do get a bit of excess there, although the fit is greatly improved when there's a basta and you get much smoother finish right there. So I really appreciate that. This is a style that's gonna have a nice amount of room inside for you to live your life and be comfortable. Nice amounts of space at the bust, around 6 to 8 inches. Because it's sort of straighter at the waist, you have plenty of space there as well. And at the hips, it's gonna be around 5 to 6 inches of positive ease. If you think that's too much, just think twice or 3 times about sizing down, because when you size down a whole size lower to get less ease, when you have features like a fitted collar stand, you might end up with a really tight neck situation that might not be too comfortable. Also, the Dolman sleeve, the sleeve entrance there might be smaller than what your arm needs. So think hard about sizing down. I would just suggest making the size that's indicated in the pattern according to your body measurements, and you will be absolutely fine. That is my suggestion. I've chosen a size 14 with a C cup to sew all around here, the collar, the sleeves, up to the bust, up to the waist. From the waist notch on the side, I blended out to a size 16 to give me a little more room there. That's what I need for my own shape. I was able to do some quick flat pattern measurements with the front. I mentioned that the yoke reaches your shoulder right there, so you can use the front piece to measure down. And I checked the bust height and I needed to lower my bust up by 3/8 of an inch. That's personal fitting. You might need to make it higher or lower. That's always going to be very individual. I also measured from here down to the waist height. I needed to add 3/4 of an inch to the length of the shirt above that waist notch so that the waist notch actually hits my waist right there. So these are all very personal. I'm taller, you know, we all have our vertical individualities. I have a really detailed video about vertical measurements and vertical adjustments. It's really useful and it might change the way that you look at fitting, because it's not just about fitting circumferences, it's also about the lengths of us, and it's all very, very individual. So have a look at that one. I've put a thumbnail there so you know how it looks. It's a really funny thumbnail. As soon as I started testing the Nosara, I gave it to my orchid tee over on my Patreon as an option for the July sew along. Yeah, it won the vote. So my lovely group over on Patreon have already seen my version and the full step-by-step sew along from start to finish. What I'm going to share with you here is a summary. It's going to give you a refresher on the collar and collar stand technique, which might be the one that intimidates you the most, but I'm promising you this is very easy. So you will see some sewing here as well, although I won't be sharing the full step-by-step sew along because that's something I do over on Patreon. Always welcome to join. You can leave at any point as well. If you like my content here, over there, you will see much, much more. Here are all the pattern pieces for the Nosara shirt. This is the back, it's cut on the fold. This one doesn't have a pleat in the center like a lot of shirts do. They are sort of on the side and you'll find 2 little marks there. That piece that you see on top is a yoke and it involves the whole length. It even involves part of the sleeve, so it's a pretty wide piece. I've got 2 layers right there and I've cut both from the same fabric. You can see I have vertical stripes here and then horizontal on the yoke. And this is the front piece, it's vertical as well. You saw how we interface that little area there. That's 1 1/4 inches wide or 3 centimeters. One patch pocket is horizontal. The top of the patch pocket is interfaced as well, as you can see. And over there we have all the collar pieces, collar stand, 2 of them. The one on top is the one that's interfaced. Then we have the upper collar, it's just one layer, it's interfaced, and two little under collar pieces that are cut on the bias. You can see the stripes at a 45-degree angle. Now we're going to do the center back seam of the under collar. Remember, this one was cut on the bias, that's why the stripes are like that. Whenever I cut an under collar on the bias, I treat it with care. I take it from my table, leave it where it has to be, and this is the first time I've picked it up. And I'm not going to be fiddling with it, pulling it. I just want to get that seam done and out of the way. This is done at 1/2 inch seam allowance, and then we press the seam open. I'm going to place the under collar right sides up following the graphics in the instructions. So you have the curved piece that's longer at the bottom and the shorter at the top right here. This is right sides up. And now I'm going to take my upper collar with the same shape and just align it on top. So I'm going to go ahead and pin these two layers together, and then we're going to sew this across there, and then the shorter curved edge that's going to be left raw so we can flip it right sides out. This is the edge that's going to be sewn onto the collar stand in a second step. At the corners, I won't be pivoting. I'll be sewing off the edge and then starting again to have intersection seams. Now we trim seam allowances down. I'm going to trim them down to about 1/4 inch here. Now we're going to flip it right sides out. Over here, I'm going to take these intersecting seam allowances, fold them onto themselves. And this is slightly trickier to do because of the angle, but it's still possible. So there's a point, and now the other side. I'm going to head over to the iron and just press the seam open here, try to neaten it up. And then this under collar, the one on the bias, is slightly shorter than the upper collar. So when I align the raw edges here, this seam is naturally going to roll into the inside. So when you wear your collar folded like this, you won't be able to see that seam. That is the whole point of having this under collar be on the bias, slightly shorter, slightly smaller and more flexible, so that in the end, you get a neater result with the collar. Now I'm just going to baste the lower edge here so that the collar can act as one piece. Okay, that's how the collar looks on the upper side. Underside looks like that. You can see how the seam rolls to the under collar there. That's because this is on the bias and is slightly shorter. So that happened naturally. I didn't have to do anything for that to happen. So I have decided I am going to edge stitch, blind hem press the foot with the needle to the left, and that's going to help. I'm very happy with how this looks. We need to take the collar stand that's interfaced. This is the one we're going to work on now, and we're going to pin it to the collar right here. This other collar piece is not interfaced. This will be the inner collar stand that's going to touch your skin. This is where I did guide stitches at the very beginning, and this needs to be folded in along that edge right there. So I'm going to head over to the iron and just press this up to have it ready to go. I've gone ahead and pressed this nice and crisp, 1/2 inch seam allowance, and now we need to trim this down a little bit, leave it at about 3/8. Okay, so that's ready to go. We'll just put it aside. Now this one that's interfaced, leave it like it is, right sides up. Now what you want your under collar, the one that's on the bias, that is the one that has to touch this one right here. So you basically want the upper collar looking up at you and the interfaced collar stand also looking up at you, both right sides together, and the collar touching this collar stand that is interfaced. On the curve, you're going to have a little notch that's going to match the edge of the collar over here as well. The center for this one, the reference of your center will be the seam of the under collar, so that's easy to match up. Now we're going to take this other collar stand that's not interfaced, and we're going to place it on top, matching the curve right here. This one has already got the fold. You're supposed to leave it like that. This other one is extended. Leave it like it is, but just match them up. Just know that this one's going to hang off on its own and this one's going to be folded. And then you have that notch that will match that one. So I'm just going to take my time to pin this nice and neatly. And then we're going to do this seam like this. From here around the curve, along the top, like that. And then we're going to have the collar sandwiched between the both layers of the collar stand. What I've done is just take my time and I hand basted around the curve quite near the edge. Everything matches up really nicely. I have 1/2 inch hanging off here from the upper collar and the fold right there. That looks smaller because we trimmed it, remember? So what I did with the friction pen is I drew my 1/2 inch seam allowance all around the curve right there, all along the top, down over here as well. I find it easier to follow this mark than just to rely on the metal plate on a curve. I find 1/2 inch seam allowances in general a little harder to sew accurately, and I do want this curve to be nice. So now that everything's basted, I don't need to worry about pins, so we'll just go ahead and get this sewn. Okay, I'm happy with the curve, that it's nice and neat. I did even some hand cranking around there to ensure that the curve was smooth, both sides there. And now we're going to trim the seam allowance. I'm going to leave it at about 1/4 inch right here, or just like cut it in half. Quite a few layers here. Now you've seen me do this before on this curve, and what I do is I take out little triangles to reduce the bulk around this area. If you just leave it like this, it'll create bulk inside and it'll look puckered, but if you take these little triangles out, it'll look much better inside, much smoother. I'll repeat the same thing on this other side. Now that that's all done, we can flip it and we get a really smooth edge right here, nice and smooth over here as well. So I'm just going to head over to the iron and press this down super neatly like this, and then we can sew this edge that's raw, that's not folded in, to the neckline. There's a beautiful collar and collar stand, very lovely. I really enjoy this technique. I always think doing this is super fun. And now we need to sew this raw edge onto the neckline. We need our neckline right sides up. I have notches that are going to match the ones over here. We just match the centers first and then go off to the sides. This edge over here is going to match this edge exactly, and over here as well. Then we have these 2 marks on the collar stand. One's going to match the seam of the yoke and another one a little further in right there. The yoke here has been drafted to be at the shoulder, so it's not coming forward onto the upper chest area. I'm just going to take my time to pin everything. It is really curved, you know, I'll probably end up hand basting it as well. I've put a few pins just to get that under collar out of the way there, and everything matches up nicely. This would be so much easier to sew if the seam allowance was smaller. So I did decide to hand baste everything so I don't have to deal with pins and the curves, and make sure all the raw edges stay together from one side to the other. So let's just sew this. Okay, that seam has been sewn. When I get to this stage, I feel like I'm almost done. We're also going to trim the seam allowance down, and then all we have to do is bring that inner collar to the seam, sew that seam. Also on this curve, I want to do some snips, help the collar lie better. Okay, so now we go off to the iron and press that seam allowance up. Then we bring the inner collar stand over the seam, and this is the last seam that we have to sew to finish this collar. Over here, the seam allowance is going to be tucked in there, and this is going to cover it as well, really neatly like that. So that is all. Head over to the iron, neaten this up. Then I'm going to come over and hand baste this, of course. I wouldn't just do it with pins. And then it's just edge stitching around this area. Okay, there's the inner collar stand all basted. So I'm going to start around there, go around the curve, come over here so everything is nice and neat. I'm going to be using my blind hem presser foot with the needle to the left again. can see the presser foot helps you get a really clean finish. So that's nice. I'll remove the basting stitches. This is my shirt. I'm so happy with it. Red has always been one of my best colors. I've been told since I was a little kid, and I just feel my best when I walk out in a red something. And sometimes I'm not dressed in red, but I get a red bag or a red shoe. I just feel great. It might not be for you, but I love it. And the stripe here was really fun to do. I kept all the front vertical. I did the collar stand with a horizontal stripe, as you can see there, so it looks really neat. That way I don't need to match up anything like that, which is really hard to do on a curve. So that would have made me very unhappy if I would have left the collar stand with vertical stripes. And then the actual collar is done vertically, so I don't have to match it up to the collar stand. I didn't need to match stripes with anything in this design, nothing. So that was fun. You can see I used the same fabric on the inner yoke and on the outer yoke. Sometimes I use a contrasting one. I didn't this time because I had enough fabric. And the other reason is that it involves this area here. So if I use something flashy in there, because the hem is just folded up, there might be a chance that you might see that because it's right there on the hem of the sleeve. So I would suggest using, if not the same fabric, maybe the same color if you want to do something different inside. So that's that. It's horizontal, it's nice. I've got vertical on the back as well, and you can see the little pleats, one here, one there, very easy to do. Usually most shirts have some detail on the center. This one's different. So that's nice, that's unique. On the front, I have one patch pocket. Before sewing the side seams, I had my pocket already pressed, everything ready. I just went to the mirror and figured out if the reference on the pattern was correct. Sometimes it just needs to be a little higher or lower according to your body. And actually this time, the reference mark there was perfect for me. I didn't need to move it higher or lower or anything like that. But I would never take that for granted. I would always be more comfortable checking first on the body and then sewing it on. So that's that. I edge stitched right there. It's all very discreet. All the top stitching here is super discreet. Button placket is integrated, folded in twice by 1 1/4 inches, which makes it super easy. I have buttonholes, and when I was trying on the placement of my patch pocket, I also marked the bust height so I could have a button exactly right there. And then I measured up 6 centimeters separation between each button. Look at these silver buttons. I think they're neutral. They go with everything. I didn't have any red buttons in the same red tone. I only had a darker one. And I don't like white. I think it would have looked too contrasting there. Up here on the collar stand, I do have a button for decoration, but I didn't sew a buttonhole right there because I'll never, like ever, close it up. I can't live my life like that. I need it open. As usual, the burrito roll encloses the seams inside. Have a look at my burrito roll video. There's 4 ways to do it, getting you the same results. I've got that content on the channel already for you. And on the inside, it's just so easy. Side seams pressed open. I did some hand hems because I just like them. I take my time to do them, and they always look so neat. I think a curved hem is so much easier to manage when you do your hem by hand than by machine. It just looks so much smoother. I'll always do that. I have no problem taking an extra half an hour of the whole project time to finish off like that. And it's so lovely. I love it so much. So you'll see it styled a few ways. With something like this, you don't have a ton of options. So I've styled it with red, white, and black. Yeah, let's see. I can wear it sort of closed and also as a layer, more casual, more formal. You know, I'm able always to dress these up and down, and I love doing that. And I know I'm gonna wear this a ton. This is my Nosara shirt from Each to Stitch in red. Mine is a size 14 with a C cup, blended to a 16 at the hips. Mine is 3/4 of an inch longer than the original length, and I have a really fun stripy fabric in a linen rayon blend. The red skirt is a Quebec skirt, also from Each to Stitch, for an all red look. I really like the shape of the curved hem. As you can see there, it's shorter on the sides, curves longer. There's also a Dolman sleeve, and that's the side profile where the hem is slightly shorter than the back. Depending on your height, this will cover your bottom or almost all of it or completely. And I did my hems by hand just for a delicate finish, and I don't really like sewing through stripes. Up on the top, we have a classic collar and collar stand which I did contrasting stripes for as well, and I really love the look of that. Dolman sleeves are always easy to sew. The hem is normal, just folded in. I did that by hand as well. I'm trying to show you how close this Dolman sleeve is, so there's no way you're going to see through the sides. At the back there's a yoke that involves all of the back, and I have a contrasting stripe there. Here's a closer look at my collar and collar stand. The technique is very doable. You'll be able to do it for sure. It's my preferred way of doing it. I'll never close it up all the way up to the top, so I didn't do a buttonhole there. And the seam of the yoke actually is on the shoulder, it's not offset over to the front. And I have one patch pocket there and a side bust-up for my C-cup that gives it a really good fit. I'm super happy with this shirt. It's so lovely, and you'll see it styled in other ways. This is the more traditional look, at least, all closed up and paired in red. I'm just so happy in red, and I love this shirt. It's so pretty, and it fits amazingly. I pulled out my stretched denim bootcut type jeans, and they're white, so it's a great color for the bottom. I only have red and white in this print, and I've got some red high heel sandals there, and this is a really nice look if I want to wear the shirt closed. I really love the length of this one over a type of fitted pant like this, and I'm really happy with the look here. I think it's really fresh for summer, and because I have a different contrast between the top and the bottom, you can see the curved hem shape a lot better, I think, than when I had it paired over the red skirt. So there you go, you can see it. That hand hem is so smooth and so nice. I never regret the time it takes to do it by hand because it just looks so pretty. I think white and red is so nice, at least for me. I know everyone's colors are different, but I think these suit me really well, and I feel amazing in this color combo here. Here's the exact same look, but a bit pared down. I have sandals that are just a low heel, and I have a white cami underneath where I can wear the shirt open like a little light layer. A more casual type of bag. In essence, it's almost the same thing. I don't have many alternatives for styling, but this is one that's a little more casual where I wouldn't feel like I'm too dressed up, and it's great. Opened as a light layer is always great, and having all white underneath is amazing. Here is a Nosara styled again, just loosely like a layer on top of all black. My black Mountain View pull-on jeans with a black cami underneath, all open, same column of color underneath. With this on top, I think is amazing. The shirt here is the hero piece of the outfit, and I absolutely love it. I think the stripes are really striking, and the color red as well. I think red and black is also a pretty strong look. There's a lot of contrast here because of my hair color and my skin color, all of that. I think this is a type of combination that really suits me, and I feel really good in, and I really love it like this. And then the last look is sort of the same colors but a different style. I've pulled out a pair of pull-on shorts that are wider. It looks sort of like a skirt with the same black cami, and very wearable low heel sandals. And this is something I'd be super comfortable to walk around all day in and feel really fresh. The layer on top is everything. I know I'm gonna get a lot of wear out of this one because anyone can wear a basic black or white outfit and just put something that's really striking on top, and I think this is what the shirt accomplishes. I really love everything about it, from the length to the curved hem to the dolman sleeve. And don't be afraid of the collar and collar stand. It's super doable. You can do it, and you can also have an amazing shirt like this. The cuff sizes in this one are sort of the golden features as well. Fits amazingly. You can't see the darts there, but the fit is just so much improved because of them, and I love that. I would have loved to have more time to make another one. It was truly an enjoyable process. I know I will make it again. One thing I want to do for my next version is add a little cuff there. I think that would be a fun add, and just extend it, make it into a shirt dress would be very easy, and then just wear it with a belt or loose. The fit of this Dolman shirt is just so refined with the bust darts. I'm so happy that they're there. Really enjoyed that bust dart there. It's a little tiny seam that you do that makes such a difference in the fit on the side. So that's golden for me. Remember, the Nosara is 20% off through next Thursday, the 27th of July. I hope you give this collar technique a go. Maybe if you have another pattern with a stand and a collar, the technique is the same. Maybe the difference will be the seam allowances, but you'll have a really nice result with this technique. I think it's very doable. I hope you enjoyed this episode. That's all from me, and I'll see you again on this channel with more sewing. Bye.